And welcome into the Umbc Ryan Odom Basketball Report. I'm your host, Gary Stein, along with Umbc head men's basketball coach Ryan Odom. And as we speak right now, the Retrievers are 11-4 overall. They're 7-3 in the America East, and they're tied for the top spot with Vermont. And, Coach, it's been a while for us, actually, and lots happened both on and off the court for the team. Just to give us a general overview, give us your thoughts on where the team is right now at 7-3 in the conference.
Yeah, it's been a challenging couple of weeks. Obviously, we missed being with you last week and the week before, but glad to be back here today. I think the guys are doing well, relatively speaking. Obviously, it's no secret we had a short pause, a 7-day pause that is pretty common around the country, and some are for a lot longer than that. So we feel extremely fortunate that it was only 7 days. For us, and that none of our players actually tested positive within that stretch. It was hard for us. We had to get some, bikes and exercise equipment, over to where they were staying, where their houses are, and they just tried to stay as active as they could during those 7 days. And then we got back at it. We had 2 or 3 practices leading into NJIT. And, we went up there and certainly I think the guys performed pretty well considering, the circumstances.
And just a quick thought on NJIT, and we'll talk more about this in the second segment. It was a split. And I wanted to talk to you about that because it seems that over the last 2 or 3 weeks, most of the teams in the conference have started to split these games. And I'm just wondering how much you've learned about how to coach back-to-back games and how your team has adjusted to back-to-back games over the course of the season.
I think the guys have done fairly well. I mean, we've obviously the last 2 times out, we've lost the first game, and to come back in that second game and come out with a win. Certainly, we feel very fortunate. But that second game is hard regardless. Both teams expend a ton of energy trying to get that first win. And then if you're on the losing end of that first game, it's really fresh. And, the guys and the coaches, the other team very well. You know exactly what did not go well, kind of why you lost pretty quickly. And you're able to kind of go back to the drawing board. Doesn't mean you're going to fix it every time, but you got a better chance, after having played one. And it being that fresh. So I am pleased. It's hard to sweep a team in our conference, and I think it just speaks to the balance that we have this year throughout.
Absolutely. And we'll talk more about the NJIT series last week. Darnell Rogers was a big part of that, Coach, and we'll have him on in the second segment. But first, a special treat, actually, a peer of yours and a soccer legend, if I may say that, about this next guy who's going to join us. He's been basically either involved in the game of soccer through playing or coaching for the last 50 years in the Baltimore area. Pete Caringi, UMBC's head soccer coach, is joining us on the Ryan Odom Basketball Report. And Pete, I've known you a long time. I've done a lot of shows with you. And when that number 50 gets mentioned, I just can't believe it, Pete. You don't look a day over 49.
Thank you, Gary. I feel old now.
Right. But hey, let me ask you real quick from a coaching perspective. Let me just talk generally. This season in general has to just be so foreign to you. I mean, after being involved in the game for 50 years, you have a set regimen. When the season starts, when you start practicing, et cetera, everything's been thrown for a loop. How do you digest it all?
Well, you have to adjust every day. It's just been a crazy, like you said, it's a crazy feeling because one, we're out training when it's at times 20 degrees outside and it's snowing, and you're trying to get, are we going to practice? Hopefully, guys aren't getting they're getting themselves in a position that they're not getting the COVID. And that's a big concern of ours that we constantly are talking to the players about. There's always a concern about how close they are and are you wearing your mask? And it's just the whole dynamics of college sports today. And I know Coach Odom feels it every day. It's just amazing because even as we look forward to the upcoming spring season, there's a lot of young players here who I think are going to be really, really good. I think the team is going to be really good in the future. But we're going to be playing games starting next week where we really wouldn't have the typical, having scrimmages and seeing the guys play. And it's going to be different. And everything, like I said, everything about it, from the training room to the locker room to on the field to off the field to the classroom, is totally different. And the guys are doing a really good job so far of adjusting.
Coach, let me get one more in quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Ryan. Pete, as far as on the field is concerned, everything's been truncated. Your practices, your practice time sessions have been shorter. Your season's obviously going to be shorter. You're going to play at a different time of the year. When it comes to on the field, what can you realistically expect to accomplish to get these players ready to start next week?
Well, I've been drilling in their head for months now that because we're going to be competing, and there's going to be a standings, and there's going to be a tournament, there's going to be an American East Championship, there's going to be an NCAA tournament, and we want to be in it. And I said that to Ryan Barrio, I said to everybody here at school, if they're going to have a competition, there's going to be a tournament, and somebody's getting a trophy, we want to be the people winning the trophy. So we understand the balance of it. It's not the same. I mean, some schools are in practicing 3 or 4 weeks, others are 3 or 4 days. But I think the mindset of the players is that we want to go out there and we want to compete every day. And we're excited about playing here next week in probably the coldest conditions that we've ever played under. And we'll see how well we do. And we want to get better. Like, the good thing for us is the tournament won't be until April/May. So I think we'll get better because we are young. But we'll just have to take it day by day. But it is a whole different experience for sure.
I'm going to let the two coaches take it over. Ryan?
Coach, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you being here. And I know Gary mentioned you as a peer of mine, but I would say a mentor of mine, because, you have actually been tremendous, since I got here 4 years ago, and it's being the 5th season. And, I appreciate all of your help along the way and getting me used to UMBC and your counsel. I wanted to ask you a question about, obviously I got two in particular, and then we'll go with the funny stuff at the end, but you've got a great staff with you. Obviously Anthony's tremendous and has been with you a long time. And then I want you to talk a little bit about what it's like, because your son played for you. Now he's coaching with you. And so obviously I'm the son of a coach as well, and never actually had the great fortune of being able to work with him at some time. How is that for you?
Well, I think it's fun, and I think it's great watching him go from his role as a player, and he had a lot of success on the field. And as you all know, that's an adjustment. One, coaching him the first year, the team did really well. He did really well. Was an All-American. So to watch him excel on the field was something fantastic. And to come back, he loves and breathes soccer. So he wanted to come back as an assistant coach. And he does a fantastic job. And for me, to have him here every day, watching him develop as a coach, and as you know, you learn every day in here. It's been great. And a lot of times now we'll talk soccer at home from a coaching standpoint. Before, I think we didn't do much talking when he was the player because he was here on campus and he wanted to have his space. But I find us becoming a little bit more closer, talking soccer and talking about specific players now more than ever. And that's fun. And just watching him, as I said, just develop and grow and see where it's going to take him.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always enjoy speaking with your guys there. And I wanted to ask you too, you've had a tremendous amount of success, since you first came to UMBC, and success over a long period of time. You talk about trophies. You've won a lot of trophies since you've been here, and your teams have. What was it like, obviously going back to 2014, a little bit for us, everybody wants to talk about, going to the NCAA tournament and playing against Virginia and that whole thing. You get a similar situation, when they think about UMBC soccer, they think about Final Fours. And talk about a little bit what that team meant to you. And I know you've had other great teams along the way that you love probably equally, but talk a little bit about that tournament run and what it meant, to you and to the guys.
Well, it meant a lot to me because I think, and you know this, before the season even started, there was a lot of kids, local kids. They were coming off of already being in the tournament twice before. And when we got together initially, there was talk of a Final Four. And, I think for some people, when you talk about the Final Four, people get scared and people say, well, what are you talking about Final Four? Why don't you worry about it? But that particular group had already went to the second round. So when I got together with them, I realized that the Final Four was a possibility. And if they believed in it, then I would surely going to believe in it. So I think it was fantastic to have a group of a lot of local kids that I've watched grow up, play club ball, and quite a few of them transferred back to UMBC, and they went to some big schools, some Maryland and other schools. And when they transferred back in, collectively now we were UMBC, and I think they all had a lot of pride in the fact that we had a lot to prove. And I think during the whole run of going to Wake Forest and Maryland and all the big schools, Creighton, we were never intimidated. I was very confident, even to the final minute of the last game. So it was just that, as a coach, that thrill of watching a group of players continue to excel, make a name, make a mark, and leave their legacy behind, and clearly once in a lifetime opportunity for us. Because when we talked about the Final Four early in the year, there's people that laughed about it, and I can understand that, because when I first came here to UMBC, there were 17 people in the stands, and no one was really talking about UMBC soccer. So to see it go to the Final Four and have the reaction that we had nationally, and it meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to those players. And I'm sure, years from now, we'll still be talking in the local bars and taverns and restaurants about that team.
Let me expand on that for a second to you both, actually. Pete and Ryan, you mentioned that, Pete's really, you would call him more of a mentor, maybe, as opposed to a peer. I wonder what your conversations were like, the two of you. I'm sure you talked, Pete, with Ryan after Ryan accomplished what he did in the NCAA tournament. Of course, what you did in the NCAA tournament was about 4 years before. Can you tell us what your conversations were like after UMBC beat Virginia?
I think it's funny because I don't know if they still have it on. There was a video right before they left, and he's going to talk about the Slurpee situation. But I really did. I did watch
the win.
I did watch a coach come in, and I've been here a long time, and was very confident and did a tremendous job with that team. And they were peaking at the right time. And I remember right before they were getting ready to leave to go down to Virginia, someone was asking me a question about Virginia, and I felt Coach Odom had, and the coaching staff was very confident. But once again, there's people that, it's impossible, no way, it's not going to happen. And I remember joking to somebody who was taking a camcorder saying, we're going down there, we're not afraid of them, we're, like Virginia, we're going to go down and play. And I just seen a very confident group that left. So as surprised as we all were, I wasn't shocked. And I think it's a credit. I think our conversations before that was anything can happen. You play the game. And, I've watched a tremendous coach continue to help our program here to take it to heights that we used to dream of years ago. But I'm very comfortable in both of us having conversations, whether it's about family or whether it's about our team, his team, the school. He says I'm a mentor, but I'm someone I also go to him because he's been in a lot of great situations. And he comes from a family that's very successful, and someone who I've always looked up to as his dad, because he was here, if you recall, at the Baltimore Arena with his team, and I met him. So it kind of is full circle, and I'm very proud and excited what the basketball team's doing, and clearly think that it's someone that I'm very comfortable having conversations with.
So Coach Caringi, just so the viewers know, and obviously you, Gary, prior to beating Vermont, actually it was the first, maybe the Hartford game. That might have been the first one at home. One of Coach Caringi's, things that he does before his games is he goes to 7-Eleven and he gets a Slurpee. It's like a little good luck, comfort thing. And so he brought Coach Dixon and the rest of the staff, all of us, Slurpees for every game that we played along the way. And so we give Coach Caringi all the credit for the wins in the NCAA tournament. It's all the Slurpee, baby.
Gary, they won every game with a Slurpee, and they beat Virginia. And I remember texting them, I don't know how I'm going to get them a Slurpee down here for the next game, but I couldn't get it. And that's probably the reason they lost. But
Yeah, we lost to Kansas State. We couldn't get a Slurpee.
Kansas State because of Slurpee, but that's a great story.
Pete, cherry, Coke, what flavor?
Cola. You got to have.
Got to be cola.
And I got to start getting. Once we host it here, I'll be having. Don't worry, every coach in there will have a Slurpee.
That's right.
Great. Hey, so you guys continue the relationship, obviously. Before or maybe during COVID, 2020, did you consult with one another on what you were doing with your teams and how to approach it and how to deal with this whole situation, Ryan?
Yeah, we actually did. I mean, we actually have, I thought, during COVID, we had quite a few, and it wasn't just Coach and I, it was the entire head coaching staff together. We had multiple Zooms and phone calls over the break, even prior to us beginning and getting back going again. And I thought that was really helpful. One of the things about UMBC is we've got a great group of head coaches and coaches in general. Each staff is awesome. And the camaraderie, the togetherness is really there. And we all pull for one another. And we all try to learn from one another. And we understand that there's no one program that's more important than another one. We all are here to, do our best for our players and people that we have under our watch. And, it's fun for us to see other coaches have success. That's what we want. And we love to see that. And we pull for one another.
And I did talk to him, and we did talk all the coaches, and I think we, as a program right now, are kind of looking to them to see how well they handled the pandemic and just the layoff. And as I said earlier, every day is a new day. And I think the basketball program has done a fantastic job both on and off the court. And we kind of look at them as kind of our model to try to emulate moving forward, because each day will be something new and exciting, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Pete, we want to let you get back to practice. Just a final quick word, if you don't mind. I know you guys are starting up next week against GW. Quattrell Jones, your goalkeeper, local kid out of Baltimore, went to Kenwood High School. Great rookie campaign 2018. Just talk a little bit about him and what he brings to your team this year.
Leadership. He's a tremendous goalkeeper. I don't say this rarely, but he will be a player that will get drafted in MLS. He's that kind of player. He continues to work at his game, and I'm thrilled that this year he's also the captain. He's a local kid. He's had a lot of success. He's on the U.S. national under-17 team, and I think he's out there training today as hard as he's ever trained. So look forward to good things. And he has another year next year, but after that, we're going to have to pay to go watch Quantrell play. So that's a great tribute to him.
Well, Pete, you were a champion as a player, you're a champion as a coach, and you're a champion in my book.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, guys. Good luck, Coach.
What's going on?
Thank you, guys.
Talk next week.
All right. See ya.
That is the great Pete Caringi, UMBC's head soccer coach. We'll take a timeout here on the Ryan Odom Basketball Report. When we return, we'll talk more in depth about last week's games against NJIT. A big performance from a little guy helped UMBC win the game on Tuesday. You're watching the Ryan Odom Basketball Report. And welcome back to the show. Gary Stein along with UMBC head coach Ryan Odom, and now joined by a young man who basically took control of the game on Tuesday, making plays all over the court, leading UMBC to a 75-71 win over NJIT in the second of a back-to-back in the series last weekend. Darnell Rogers is our guest here on the Ryan Odom Basketball Report. And Darnell, welcome into the show, number one. Number two, great performance on Tuesday. Just tell us a little bit about what you saw on the court and the situation and how UMBC was able to hold on for that win.
For us going into that game, we just really wanted to, lock in on the scout and get the win. But for me going into that game, I just wanted to put pressure on Zach because I knew he was the leading scorer on their team. So I knew he was going to get his shots up, but I just wanted to make him work on the other end. I felt like that would help us out a lot.
Yeah, and you're talking about Zach Cooks, of course, who's the star for NJIT, averaging about 15 or 16 points per game. He's a great player. There's no doubt about it. Darnell, let me ask you another quick one, and then we'll turn it over to Ryan. You know, Brandon Horvath, who's the leading scorer on the team, fouled out of the game with about 4.5 minutes left, and it was tight. I think it was like 64-63 when he fouled out, and they had fought back from an 11-point deficit to close it to 1. You and RJ Idlerock really carried the team the rest of the way. Talk about the backcourt right now and how you guys kind of complement each other.
Man, we got a great backcourt all around from Keandre, LJ, me, June, Jacob, Mateo's really good. He's just young right now. I mean, we all really good closers. I feel like that's going to help us moving forward.
Coach?
Yeah, so Darnell, obviously I love every day with you, man. I love coaching you. You defy the odds, of course, and you've heard that your entire life. You grew up in a basketball family just like me, and your father was a great player and played overseas for probably 13 years. Talk about that experience and what it was like to grow up in a family with, you know, just the ball in your hand from day one.
Man, growing up in my family, very, very, very competitive. My older brother, we used to battle a lot. My cousins, the kids I grew up with in the neighborhood back home. So I was just always, and I was always the youngest, so I always played with like the older kids too. So I was always getting beat on and stuff. So I just had to get tough if I wanted to like compete with them and just hang out with them every day because they were older than me.
Isn't it amazing how that works sometimes? The younger ones always become the best players because they challenge themselves against older ones.
That's true.
A lot. Talk about the relationship that you and your father have.
You know, we got a great relationship. It's mainly basketball, though. He loves to talk about basketball all the time.
What kind of advice does he give you? What's the most important thing he's ever told you in basketball?
He told me when I think I was like in 8th grade, I was getting older. This is when I like really started to take basketball seriously because I really thought I was going to be a football player like until like my freshman year when I found out our high school team wasn't that good. So I just pretty much stopped. But he used to just tell me like to slow down and not play like fast the whole game. You gotta like switch it up, switch gears, like fast to slow. Because I would always just play at like one speed. I just always try to like beat my players down the court, like just hurry up and like drop an assist like real quick. So I just really had to learn how to like play within like an offense and stuff.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. Like playing slow to fast, you know, because you're always the fastest guy on the court, and having the ability to sometimes slow down and then go, you know, is a tremendous advantage for you. I always tell everybody when you know, I get asked all the time about you and the size and how does that factor in. And I always say it's not unnatural for you. You've dealt with it your whole life. You've overcome it your entire life. It's more about getting the other 4 guys that are playing with you used to, all right, that and how to account for it. I'm talking about from a defensive perspective. But you've been huge for us in terms of putting pressure on the other team's point guard or best ball handler. Each game this season, and a big reason why we've had the success that we've had. Talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball for you and kind of what the importance of that is.
You know, it's very important because, you know, the point guard initiates the offense, so you always got to disrupt the other opponent's point guard just to, like, mess up their flow and, like, his rhythm. So if you mess up the point guard's rhythm, you got the game.
Yeah,
that's really what I be trying to do, and then just, you know, limit. Like, you're not gonna never like fully stop someone, so you really just gotta limit what they do. So like maybe make him have less shots, get the balls out of his hand faster, don't let him dictate the team, you know, stuff like that.
Darnell, let me ask you. You know, John Feinstein and I, when we do the broadcasts on ESPN, talk about this often. We talk about the journey that a lot of basketball players take to get to where they are today. Not only have you have had to overcome, the size issue, at least, to outside observers looking in, but you've played basketball and your journey has really taken you around the country. You went to Florida Gulf Coast, you played over there. You went to New Mexico, you played in junior college over there. Now you're back kind of to your roots in Baltimore. And you're only in your early 20s, and you're not like a grizzled veteran, that gets paid millions of dollars to play basketball. So, talk a little bit about that journey at such a young age and how you process that.
I loved it. I love traveling. When we finally moved to Carolina, I honestly didn't want to move there because I loved Europe so much, just like growing up there. And then I thought when we moved back, we'd like get a house in Baltimore, but we didn't. So it was kind of iffy, but I stuck it out. That's really it. But yeah, I love the journey though, like just from traveling everywhere. Cause I lived in Italy, I lived in France, I lived in Belgium. And then like I had came back in 6th grade, and then like my 7th grade year, we went back to France again. So I was over there for like a lot of my life until like I was about to go to high school.
You played on some great AAU teams too.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and some of your teammates that you played with and some of the relationships that you still have there.
Yeah, I played in Charlotte, I played with Team United and Team Charlotte before I actually went to CB3. Because when I was about 9 years old, I played with this United Celtics team. And we used to play against CP3, and we beat them by like 30 all the time. So when I was around like 9 years old, he used to always like, when you gonna come up here and play with us and stuff like that. This was one of Chris Paul's best friends, and I was just like, nah, like my team's better, so I was never gonna leave my team. And then once I got in high school, I was playing with Team United, and we was playing 15 and under. And our 15 and the team was actually better than like our 17 and the team. So I wanted to play up. And they didn't really want us to play up because like the coach was he coached at West Charlotte, and like he had all the West Charlotte players on the 17 team. So that kind of made me mad that we was better than the other teams and they wouldn't let us play up. So I left with the CB3 when I really didn't want to play 16s, but I played 16s 1 year with them, and we won every game that I played with them. And then going into 17U, that's when I had like Harry Giles and Elterick Gilbert, Josh Okogie, Grant Williams, who are like 3 of them are in the NBA right now. So, and like
Coach, let me ask you. We got a couple minutes left with Darnell. How did you find him?
So ironically, I met Darnell. He came to our camp at Charlotte because I was coaching at UNC Charlotte at the time. Obviously, his father and I were familiar with one another just from basketball circles. And, he came with his high school team and came and played, or I guess you were playing up at that point because it was probably in 8th grade, when you were playing at that point. And your older brother was playing, at the same time. And so I watched him play, way back then. And then obviously, Darnell's story is no secret. He committed to GW where his father played. They end up having a coaching change, and then he decides, pretty quickly to go in a different direction and decides on Florida Gulf Coast, and didn't go like he had hoped it would go, and made a choice to kind of reboot and restart and found a new home out in New Mexico, and had a great year there, and obviously that's when we began recruiting him, and figured out he came and visited, and he and his mom and dad and came check things out, and it was just a match. It was a perfect match for all of us. Obviously, I've coached guys like Darnell before, during my career. I've had other guys that, obviously here at UMBC, KJ Morrow is a guy that, people doubted, throughout his entire career, just solely based on size. But what you have to measure with players like Darnell and KJ is their heart and their mind and their toughness. And he's got all three of those. And if you have those three, you can play the game. And Darnell's obviously a fabulous shooter as well. He can really shoot the basketball with the best of them.
Yeah. Well, and I've told Darnell. Yeah, and I've told Darnell many times I basically cut my teeth broadcasting high school basketball in this area of Baltimore, and I called many a game with his dad, Shante, and he was truly one of the greats in Baltimore high school basketball history. Darnell, just a quick thought. Does Shante get to watch much of your games in person? Does he follow you online? How do you and he talk about your play?
After every game, he'll call me like later in the night, like before I go to sleep, and he'll just tell me stuff that I should work on. And like if I do good, he'll tell me I did good. If I need to work on some stuff, he'll tell me what I need to work on.
Sounds good. Well, listen, you come from a great basketball family and a great family, just in general. So thank you for taking the time and joining us. And of course, we look forward to the rest of the season and wish you the best along the way.
Thank you, and I appreciate you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
All right, Nell.
All right, bye.
That's Darnell Rogers, guard for UMBC's basketball team. Of course, Ryan Odom. Ryan, you talked about how much you love being around him every day, and I can certainly tell just by the way he is and knowing the kind of guy that he is. We'll take a timeout here. When we return on the UMBC Ryan Odom Basketball Report, we'll kind of preview what's coming up for the Retrievers, a big weekend series up in Long Island against Stony Brook. Back after this. Back at you here on the UMBC Ryan Odom Basketball Report. Gary Stein along with Ryan Odom. And Coach, it's interesting the way that the America East Conference season has kind of worked its way out. You and Vermont up top, 7-3. Stony Brook right on your heels, 6-4. Not a lot of games left to play in the season. And here you go up to Stony Brook now for a huge weekend series coming up against the Seawolves. Just talk a little bit about them and what's coming up for you guys.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with their team. Coach Ford's done a great job, and his staff's done a great job. Obviously, they lost quite a few players from last year's team, and they were excellent last year, as well, right there in the semifinals, and had a chance to make it to the finals. We got beat by a good Hartford team. But I'm really impressed with the way he's been able to replenish his roster with new players. Obviously, he had one guy sitting out last year who was already in the fold. But they worked quick when they lost some key players, and they've got a typical Stony Brook team. They've got size, they've got athleticism. They rebound the ball better than any team in our league. They got, I think it was 40% of their misses the other day in one of their games, which is a crazy number. And so in order to compete with them, you certainly are going to have to do your job on the glass. They've got a reliable inside scorer in Sales who's capable of getting big numbers. They've got a dynamite guard as well that's running the point really well for them. He can shoot and drive. They've got a transfer from Dayton that set out last year that, can really shoot the ball. He hasn't been shooting it particularly great recently, and his percentage is still at 35. And so that tells you how well he was shooting it earlier. A dynamite shooter. So we're going to have to, deal with that. The kid Guy is playing extremely well right now, and is long and athletic. Is a guy that we'll face in our league. And I've been really impressed with how they pass the ball. They're a willing passing team, and they're executing really well on offense right now. And they're playing stingy defense. So it's going to be a hard-fought series. We're excited to get up there and play. And like you said, we've only got a few left at this point. And, we got to put our best foot forward here.
Coach, I wanted to expand on Guy for just a minute. Dan Ocken for you guys has been in and out of the lineup for the last couple of weeks, so you got a little bit of a depth issue there. Does that concern you at all coming into this game against Stony Brook with the big guy in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does. Not having Dan, we'd love to have Dan out there, right now. Dan's had a rough go. He breaks his nose and has that situation. Then he kind of comes back from that, and then he twists his ankle pretty bad. And so, he's starting to round into form. We'll see what happens, with this series. Not sure yet, how that's going to play out, but he'll be back at some point. And, we definitely need him. I think from a defensive perspective, obviously, what Dan brings, to us and to our team. He brings more scoring as well, than he has in years past. And, so we're looking forward to getting him back in there. But I'm really pleased with the way the guys have filled in his absence. Shimon's given us some good minutes. We put Nate in there the other day. Obviously, Dimitri has done a fabulous job in an increased role. So, it is tough to not have him out there, but we'll get him back soon.
And one of these days we'll come back home and play a home game, right, Coach?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
All right, sounds good. Hey, listen, best of luck this weekend. We'll be watching 2:00 Saturday, 2:00 Sunday up on Long Island. And, Coach, you take care of yourself and take care of that basketball team.
Thanks so much.
All right, we'll see you soon. I'm Gary Stein, thanking you for joining us. This has been the UMBC Ryan Odom Basketball Report.